Hi, and welcome to this edition of IAMPETH's Inside the Penman Studios. I'm very pleased to have one of my favorite IAMPETH people here, Ms. Janie Cravens. Janie, thank you so much for coming and agreeing to speak with me.
Thank you, Joe.
Janie, let me start from the beginning. What was your, or when did you first develop an interest in either penmanship or the pen arts? When did that first occur?
Well, both of my parents had excellent handwriting, but my dad was a postmaster, and it was so important to him that I write legibly because he wished everybody would write legibly. I remember in particular one night really wanting to go and watch television on a Sunday night. I believe the Beatles were on. Okay. And Daddy wouldn't let me go until I had practiced my alphabet. We did that every Sunday night after church.
Really? Every Sunday night?
Every Sunday night. And so I had to do my handwriting, and he would show me what I needed to improve on, and I would work on that all the next week. So handwriting was important in my family.
Okay.
And so I thought that was just kind of fun to remember.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this from others, that their parents, Rick Muffler with his mother's influence on his writing. Janie, were you taught handwriting in school?
Yes. Oh, yes, and pretty strictly. I believe it was the Zahner-Bloser method. Okay. And I remember struggling in 5th grade, and that's when my dad started to work with me, because I think I got maybe a B+. It was the first B I ever made in handwriting, and that's when he started to work with me. But I remember having handwriting lessons all the way through 8th grade.
Okay. And it's actually a very different time now in the school systems, right? Because handwriting, particularly cursive handwriting, is at risk. It's being pulled out of curriculums, and children, it's being seen as something superfluous to education. I know you have very strong opinions on that. We'll get to that in a minute. When did you develop a passion for pointed pen arts?
When I was a teenager, I used to love to look at magazines, 17 magazine and all the girls' magazines, and copy the lettering from the ads. And I really became interested in calligraphy through that. But I wanted to learn pointed pen, but I was drawing it and then back shading it in to get the look.
Okay. Because
I had never seen a pointed pen or an oblique pen holder until I was invited to join the Birmingham Calligraphy Guild in 1990.
Okay.
Travis Jones was the guild master.
Yes, yes.
And the first night I went, they had all these different inks set out with a pointed pen next to each one for us to try. And that was it. That's when I really thought, I can do this. And within a month from that, I took on a wedding.
Really?
In that pen, and charged them for it. And I shudder now to think what it must have looked like, but I knew that was what I wanted to do.
That night when Travis had all of the inks laid out, were those straight pen holders with the pointed
No,
pen?
they were all oblique.
Oblique with flexible steel nibs?
Yes.
And when that was your first contact with that kind of pen, how did it feel in your hand?
It just felt like it was meant to be there.
Okay. One of the challenges, as you know, that we have with pointed pen is getting properly adjusted pens into novices' hands. And it's an area where people will quit, if they can't get their pen to work correctly. And for those of you that are having struggles, contact me or go to IAMPETH.com. I have videos that talk about how to adjust that pen holder and also how to hold the pen holder relative to the paper.
Well, I think I had the advantage. If I did have a little trouble, I had that whole gill there to help me.
You had
right when I picked it up, Irene Calindo always says practice makes permanent. If I were a new pen person, if I were really trying to get this, I would try to find somebody that could make sure I was on the right track before I started to build some really bad habits. So I think my advantage was that he was there, and so were the other members, Gloria Nelson, Elizabeth Judd, Ann Erickson.
Right.
We were the founders of the guild, actually, but they had already had a little experience when I got my hands on that first pen.
Okay. Janie, who was your mentor or mentors during your formative years with penmanship and these pen arts?
I'd say my parents. My dad had the biggest influence, although my mother wrote beautifully until the day she died. Both of them did. But I did have an art instructor in school who taught me how to use a speedball nib.
Okay.
And then when I went to college, I loved it so much I majored in art with an emphasis in graphic arts in hopes that I would get calligraphic training. I didn't. I never got it. I kept waiting for that course to be offered, but I still graduated with an art degree. I just
college
didn't.
was it, Janie?
Eastern Kentucky University.
Okay.
In
Do you
Richmond.
have one particular form of pointed pen arts that you love, or even broad pen? Is there one thing that really is close to your heart, whether it's
I love pointed pen. That's
Pointed
my
pen.
favorite.
Spencerian?
I
Grocer's
love it
script?
all, but engrosser script is what I do most of the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And the just a little flourishing along with
Okay.
it. You know, I
Okay,
just take it
flourishing.
up just
Sure,
a little bit.
Sure. For those of our audience out there who may not be familiar with this terminology, in modern times they sort of group engrosser script along with everything else and call it copper plate. But engrosser script was a form of drawing letters, not handwriting. But for today's purposes, people interchange engrosser script, engraver script, roundhand, and copper plate. You should keep Spencerian separate from that.
Right.
But that's what Janie was referring to. Janie, which of the past masters do you admire the most? Which one or two of those past masters do you admire most? Or do you?
They blow me away, Baird. They're all phenomenal. But I really admire the past masters that I've had the privilege to meet.
Actually meet.
Buddy Blackwell was incredible, talented and so humble. Travis Jones was just a wonderful person. Coates Brown, they're not really considered masters. These are Southern gentlemen
Right.
who had it all. They had the talent and the skill and the desire to help others learn it. I admire Walt Williams, and then currently my colleagues, Rosemary Buchek and Mike Saul,
Yes.
you. I have lots of people that I admire. And I also admire Maria Thomas.
Yes.
She is just off the wall with her work just breathes life.
Exactly. It
It's
has an
fresh,
element.
it's
Yes.
fun. I just love it. And so I admire people in the past and then people presently as well.
Okay. Janie and the audience, we're going to take a break right now. We'll come back for segment 2, where I'm going to speak to Janie about her involvement with IAMPETH as an organization. And we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to this segment of IAMPETH's Inside the Penman Studio. I've been speaking with IAMPETH member Janie Cravens. And Janie, let me ask you when you first became aware of IAMPETH. When did that occur? How long ago did you first learn about it? Then when did you become a member?
Well, after I joined the Birmingham Calligraphy Guild, that was all the talk. They had just come back from Rochester with the next convention being in Columbus. Now, I had a new baby, but I was trying to figure out a way, and I did, and that's where I met Rick Muffler and all the people that I'm now friends with. And I haven't missed a convention since then.
Wow.
I think it was 91, but I'm not positive. It was at that convention that I was introduced to the Zenarian Manual.
Okay.
And the Zenarian Manual, I think, is if you have to have one piece of educational material in your calligraphic library, it has to be that one.
Yes, we lovingly refer to that book as the Bible with the small b for us. So, yes, it's my favorite book.
It has everything you really need.
Absolutely. Janie, IAMPETH as a group, if you look at the words in IAMPETH, and I've been asking this of a few of our members during the interview session, it reads the International Association of Master Penmen, Engrossers and Teachers of Handwriting. So for a novice, that can be a pretty intimidating thing to read. Is there any reason why a novice should be concerned or, worried about coming to an IAMPETH convention?
No, it's this group where the novice should come, because we're encompassing, we are sharing. If you want to learn it, this is the place to come, because everybody is so giving with everything, their time and their talents, and they will share. Because we've all found that we have so many common bonds. We love paper, we love ink, we love letter forms. So many people here, we just have so much in common, even outside the lettering world. It's kind of
Right.
like I've found my tribe.
Yes, we heard the word family used a lot.
It's definitely the IAMPETH family, and and it's the IAMPETH spirit.
Yes.
It's not selfish. If somebody's real selfish about their business and they don't want to share best bets or tips, it's probably not the place for them.
Exactly.
Because it's a very, very generous, open, and respected organization. When people put their work out, there's kind of an underlying integrity that work won't be copied and used under someone else's name. There's a definite trust here that I hope continues. I hope no one takes advantage of it, because it's great.
Janie, what do you see as IAMPETH's mission?
IAMPETH's mission has always been, first and foremost, to promote handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
It was founded on that, and being a public school teacher for many, many years, 25 years until I retired. I taught handwriting as a language arts teacher, and I've seen changes in the schools from where it was just expected and understood to hardly anyone knows how to do it now. So the mission is to promote handwriting of all kinds, but it's also, I think, to take the calligraphic arts to the highest level. Now, there are lots of different types of graphic arts out there, but the pointed pen arts particularly, that is a very high level, and I think that we demand excellence, like this piece.
Zahner, yes.
Yes.
And I've always told people that I believe that we have in our membership, whether they come to the convention or not, in our membership, the finest pointed pen artists in the world in our membership. So. And Janie, when you look at the state of handwriting in particular, why is handwriting, now when we talk about handwriting, I'm speaking specifically to the cursive style of handwriting, not the italic form. And I'm not here to present an argument one way or the other, but why is cursive handwriting in such trouble, and even italic handwriting for that matter, in such trouble in our school systems in this country?
There's been a lot of pressure on passing the test. I'm not sure where people get the information that they think people should know to succeed. Mm-hmm. I think some of it is really out of touch with what's needed. And I believe you get what you measure, and because handwriting isn't measured, the results they're just letting it go by the wayside. Handwriting education used to be taught on how to actually teach it in college preparatory schools, and that's been gone for a while. And because if a student happens to show up, at college and they end up getting a degree, they may have never had a day of actual formal education in it, and therefore they're uncomfortable about teaching it.
Right.
And or they may just pass out worksheets during times when students are coming in and say, "Here, copy this," and they think that suffices. People
have said that maybe it's the influence of email and texting, but I think that's too simplistic an answer. I think there's actually a prejudice against it. And somehow, it's not just the computer. If anything, and I'm going to ask you this question about the influence of cyberspace on our art form. And I think, if anything, in my opinion, it's been beneficial. So could it really have led to the demise of handwriting as a learned art? And, I think the answer may be more complex than a simple response from you, but, do you really feel it's played the biggest role in the loss of handwriting from the public schools?
It probably has, just like the post office is going to be changing. Mm-hmm. It's got to have some kind of impact.
Right.
What people forget is, and I think to the extreme, there are people who say we don't need any kind of writing.
Right, exactly.
But I'm very scared of that. The definition of civilization includes a form of writing.
Right.
And if you have to depend on a power supply to define your civilization, you're in big trouble. Also, I'm seeing a big gap between the technology haves and the technology have-nots.
Yes.
And the pen is a very powerful weapon, but if they're not taught, it's going to make that divide even bigger.
Right,
because
exactly.
Communication is just so crucial. And when that's taken away from people who can't afford to have the latest, greatest technology, then we're going to be in real trouble.
Do you think we will see it die out in the school systems?
I do think there's some pockets of good education going on, but as the new teachers begin to replace older teachers, I just am not sure if I just don't know. I do think a really great dissertation subject would be for some young grad student to take the information of schools who have great test scores and how much time they spend on handwriting education. I believe we might find a correlation, and I would love to see it in the numbers for sure.
Janie, do you think IAMPETH could have a beneficial impact on this trend? Do you think we could have any impact at all?
I think we are. We've become recognized as a voice for handwriting. I just interviewed with the Philadelphia Inquirer, and that article ran today, and it was a positive article toward penmanship. People are not ready to give it up yet, and it may take something like the Indiana ruling to make people decide I'm not going to take it anymore. The Indiana ruling doesn't completely wipe it out, but it makes it optional. So I think maybe just the fact that they've ruled it probably reflects it's optional in lots of places. But if I could find some research, new research, we have old research that shows that when you're taught cursive properly, you can write things quickly, you can write them without being tired, it's appropriate. Sometimes it's just not appropriate to pull out a technological device.
Right.
Sometimes you have to be able to write, and writing in cursive is effective. It's efficient, and there's a rhythm to it that helps you remember what you've written. If you write a grocery list and you forget your grocery list at home, you can still remember most of the items because you have done that rhythm.
Right. You know, it's unfortunate because in some respects there's been people who have been claimed to be proponents of certain forms of handwriting, but we've sort of been a house divided because the people who favor the printing method look at cursive as being something that is not what should be done, and sometimes vice versa. And I think it's kind of hard to put your house forward if you're divided. And I think in some respects, we've been our own worst enemies with this, and not necessarily IAMPETH, but just people who favor some type of handwriting in general. But I do agree we can have an impact just the way we've had an impact on the ornamental penmanship. There was a time where it was actually risk being lost. And I think we sort of recovered that as an organization.
It's sad for me to think that school systems chose handwriting based on the best marketing.
Right.
And I'm afraid that's really what's happened. Even in some of my own school systems where I taught, the best programs were not selected. The slickest, best salesmen who talked the game the best convinced the school system to buy a program that really didn't help the children at all. And in fact, may make it worse as far as trying to read the legibility of the students' work.
Janie, to wind this down, let me ask you a simple question more about technical aspect. Do you have a favorite pen point?
Oh, of course. I love the Nico G.
Okay.
I love it. It works for me. That and a jar of McCaffrey's ink, and I tell you, I can hold my own in a group.
It is quite amazing when you think about our membership, the impact our membership has had on inks. Brian Walker and Neil McCaffrey making inks.
And another one too. There's another one that Old World Ink.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
right.
He's a new member.
There's probably more than that.
And those three are all excellent.
Yes, I know Angela Welsh has made her own walnut ink that she sold through some paper and ink arts and John Neal booksellers.
Oh, and Ziller. I mean, we've done
Ziller,
a lot
yes,
of
I just
great,
interviewed Vivian and Rich.
A lot of great products are coming just from this group.
One of our master penmen, Brian Walker from England, was responsible for the development of the Leonard Principle pen. We have members who make, like Mike Sull and Bill Lilly, who make beautiful pen holders. So I think we don't just exist as an organization, but we've contributed significantly back to the art, to the pointed pen arts. Janie, let me ask you a question. You've been a member of IAMPETH for several years now, but you weren't just a member. Were you president of the organization?
Oh yes, I've been secretary.
Okay.
Vice presidents, of course, and I was the president for the convention held in Nashville.
Yes.
It was the 60th annual convention.
Yeah, amazing.
It
Great
was a
convention.
fun convention.
Did your perspective of the group change at all when you became president, or was it?
I always had an idea that it was, that it was a group of wonderful people, but it just astounded me at how easy it was to ask for help. People were so willing to help. With a convention of all volunteers, the size of it was the largest convention to that day, and everybody just pitched in. So it just made me appreciate everyone even more. And I made new friends. We held the convention in Nashville, and the Nashville Calligraphy Guild turned out to be just a godsend. They were so fun, and we picked up some members from them. They invited us to Nashville, and we really had a good time that year.
Well, thank you for your service to the organization too. It's a tough job to be a president. People don't realize how much work is involved in putting one of these conventions on. So thank you.
Anything that's worthwhile is going to take some effort.
Exactly, exactly. And Janie, last question for you: if you had a time machine, and the time machine was specific for pen masters from the past, who would you go back and want to interview and film, and why?
Could I make a couple of stops?
Sure, yes you can.
I got to know Buddy Blackwell through IAMPETH, and I just didn't get enough time before he passed on. He was a wonderful, gentle man who did impressive work. He did Bill Gates' wedding invitations. He just did all of this fantastic work and just was so humble about it. He has a video out, but he inspired me to try to write like him. I would love to see Travis Jones again. Travis, being from Birmingham, Alabama, he was our guildmaster in Birmingham and just a wonderful teacher. He was tireless in his effort to teach us how to write well. I would love to talk to Zahner and Blosser and find out what they were thinking when they recognized the need for their handwriting program in schools. I would love to go back and see how this person took this talent and put it in a way that children could communicate. Mm-hmm. So, and 1,000 more. Stanley Slizek and so many past people that I've had the privilege to meet.
Well, part of the reason why we're doing this is to have a record of our membership for our posterity as well, and so I'd like to thank you for taking this time to speak with me. I said this in the past. When I think of IAMPETH as having a voice, the voice I hear is yours.
Oh, thank you.
That's Southern Belle. But thank you so much, audience, and we'll be back with another edition of IAMPETH's Inside the Penman Studio. Thank you again, Jenny. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak with me. So.
Thank you.